Our next presenter, Stephen Bassett. He is the Executive Director of Paradigm Research Group, also known as PRG, founded in 1996 to end a government-imposed embargo on the truth behind extraterrestrial-related phenomena. Steve has spoken to audiences around the world about the implications of an extraterrestrial presence engaging the human race. He has given more than 1,200 radio and television interviews, with PRG's advocacy work extensively covered by national and international media, including CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, The Washington Post, and The New York Times. He is also co-founder of the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance, a nonprofit organization dedicated to bringing relevant researchers, authors, abductees, and experiencers together with content creators working across every aspect of the global entertainment spectrum. From Washington, D.C., please welcome Steve Bassett. Appreciate it. Go get him.
I should have bought an extra spotlight so I could put it on my slides or I could pull it out. It's okay. Wow. Charles Foltz. Tough act to follow. Impressive. There are people like that that have had all of these involvements in projects and films and so forth that met everybody. You don't even know them because this issue is so vast. It's being engaged in so many ways in so many places. And that's good, right? We're winning. There's more of us than there are them. So let's see. Today, all right, what I'm going to do is a little mixture of commentary, some observations, a little doom and gloom, not too much, and some over-the-top optimism, which I'm infamous for. All right, got to do that. And we'll see what happens. But this is, and I'm going to get this mic where I need to get it. Got to get it further away. About there? That's good. Okay. Powerful mic you got here. Okay. Quality work. So this, if you can see it, this slide is remarkable because I was out late, very late, walking around just trying to find myself, and I noticed this happening here, and this only happens about once every 25,000 years, when the Andromeda Galaxy, comes up over the Capitol, and I got a shot of that. And so, it's like, well, what can I say? You'll never see it again. So, the reason that I use it is because it's cool, right? It's cool, and I made it, which is the limits of my CGI skills, okay? AI now would actually create the galaxy from scratch and add all kinds of details. I'm going to get to AI, I swear to God, hopefully soon. But this is symbolic. This is. I'm going to get. I just have a few slides, and they're basically just here to get you in the right frame of mind, which means that I'm doing mind control. But it's good. It's good mind control. Okay, and because this is kind of what's going on. It's the political reality of this issue meeting the rest of the universe, which is rather big. You heard what Mr. Foltz said about the fact that there are more stars in our galaxy than grains of sand. Guess what? There are more galaxies in the universe than there are leaves on the trees. But we're the only ones really that can use computers and stuff, right? The rest of the universe didn't get it. Lucked out, didn't get the draw. It's like the lottery, right? 180 million to one, you still buy a ticket? Well, this is like 400 quadrillion to one. We're the only ones that won the ticket. I don't think so. So, we got that, and I'm going to start. I hope this is going to work for me. I'm going to go here. Okay. Again, get some light on that. You may not be able to see. Those are World War II planes, British. And there's these balls of light, okay? Just make a note of this. Again, this is all prequel, right? They're going to get you in the right frame of mind. Balls of light following the planes around in World War II. They were also following our planes and the Japanese planes, and I think the Germans' planes. They were basically not taking sides. They're just flying around. They weren't shooting things down. They weren't causing a problem. They were just hanging out, watching the show. This is well documented. There's no question about this. What are they? Some call them orbs. So you can call them plasma balls. But at that time, they were called Foo Fighters. And foo, of course, as all of you know, is French for fire. And that's all the French I know. And so that was happening during the war. Interesting. And can you blame them? I mean, if there's somebody operating or controlling those things, or whatever the hell they're doing, what a show, what a streaming series that was. World War II. Oh, man, multiple theaters, unbelievable action, right? You know what it cost to put that in an actual like Netflix series? It would cost hundreds of billions of dollars, but we did it basically, for free in a sense. They're watching it. That's good. And then, next one, just a few years after the war is over, this happens. As you know, something crashed in Roswell. And that would not be that big a deal, except that they put out a press release that it happened. All right, this is a different military back then. All right, this is a different time. So something like that happened, and the base commander was told, and the base commander thought, I think the American people should know about this. I'm going to put a press release out. And he did. And it started appearing in various papers around the country. It picked up by the AP, and we were on a roll. We were heading disclosure fast. At a time when we were feeling good, and America was looked at as the great nation that helped defeat the Axis powers. It was a great time. The economy was about to go up. Everything was fine, okay? But it was a little problem. The issue of an ET presence is a little awkward at that time for certain people in the military and the Department of Defense. And so the next day, we got that, which is, of course, they denied it. They said it was not real. Now, one thing to note here, and a lot of people don't notice this. Remember, it refers to flying saucer. That's pretty descriptive, pretty basic. They didn't say UAP. Flying saucer, right? Because there had been, quote, flying saucers seen previously, particularly the ones over Mount Rainier. And then when they close it out, he empties the saucer. Now, you see, that's a problem. Because right away, as they start to move into the age of disclosure, the age of truth embargo, anything that helps people kind of go in the direction of the truth, not good. Anything that takes them away from it, good. And flying saucer was just a little too descriptive. Right? It's like a craft. It's round. Okay, it doesn't have wings. And so, not surprisingly, this is early, so they really hadn't act together yet. There was a whole lot they had to get together in order to start really making the truth embargo a thing. So guess what? Flying saucer disappeared pretty quickly, in a sense. I say disappeared, but it was demonized, okay? It was stigmatized. So if you said flying saucer, you're crazy. They had to do that because it's too descriptive. And then eventually it goes to UFOs instead of flying saucer, which is safer, right? Not unreasonable acronym, unidentified flying objects, okay? However, it was a nice, crisp acronym, and so what the government did is stigmatize the hell out of that. Demonize it, stigmatize it, whatever. You say UFO, nuts, all right? So that was then. Move on a little bit. And this happened in 1952. Again, this is all just to get your mind the right place. This is a rendition, a nice one, of what happened in 52 for about 10 days in July, when the same things probably that were flying with those planes, the Foo Fighters, turned up over Washington, D.C. in large numbers, scaring the hell out of anybody that paid attention to that in D.C., scaring the hell out of the DOD, and ultimately triggering the Robertson panel. But again, they're over D.C. 52 for 10 days. There weren't a lot of drones back then. Not too many. You couldn't get a drone on Amazon. There wasn't an Amazon, okay? So there they were. Interesting. And let's see, go one more. Oh yeah. I'm gonna back up. Ooh, wait a minute, sorry, hang on, backing up. I'm gonna stay right there. We're gonna stay there for a while. All right, now. What happens after that? from 52 on to 2017, 65 years, I think it's 65 years, right, is that the US government, with the aid of its allies, or with the agreement with its allies, or compliance, whatever the hell, crafted the most extraordinary piece of disinformation ever, as good as it gets. 80 years now on, the government's position is, or at least until recently, when they're actually starting to lose their eminence on this, preeminence, is that there was nothing there. It wasn't even real. 80 years. We finally got the real not too long ago, but now we're past real. 80 years. And they managed to do that in spite of the fact that this stuff kept happening everywhere, all the time. And then the research developed and the citizen groups. It was one of the most extraordinary citizen efforts ever. Not that there haven't been major activist movements with huge citizen effort. You know about some of them, right? In the 20th century, you had major activism going on, huge numbers of people involved, spending their own money, doing it as a volunteer. That was happening with this, too. Wasn't easy, because everybody that got involved in this, going all the way back, certainly to 52, but even before, everybody that got involved in this, I don't care who you are, what your education is, how smart you are, how honest you are, you were getting involved in an activist movement about something the government said didn't exist at all. It's not even there. And they had pretty much established that as the norm. And so you say, look, I'm looking into UFOs. There are no UFOs. Therefore, you're weird. You've got a problem. And they managed to keep that pretty much until now, though we know there's been a lot of change that I'll be talking about. But just think about that. Think of all the people that have done the research and written the books, the contactees that have come forward, the organizations they formed, not just in the United States, but elsewhere. Think of all of that effort, and they did it decade after decade about something the government absolutely said doesn't even exist. That makes it the most extraordinary activist movement, as far as I'm concerned, in all of history. No activist movement ever had to deal with that. In the area of religion, which is not an activist movement by and large, but you get a little of that because you have people that believe in something and other people say what you're believing in doesn't exist, okay? And that can get dicey. But this is science. This is pretty basic. This is real. And the government said, no, it's not. It's not there. This is the fundamental sin that has brought me into the field as an activist. So I'm not a journalist, and I'm not a researcher, and I'm not a witness, right? And the reason I say that is because there can be some confusion. When I got involved 30 years ago, there was no full-time activist. There were some people doing some activism and important work, but full-time activist? No, nobody's doing that. So why do I bring this up? If you're a journalist, you have protocols. There's things you can do. You're supposed to do it a certain way. And if you don't, you're not a journalist anymore. So you need to follow those protocols. Totally appropriate. I love journalism, by the way, and I love journalists. They are the savior of any democracy, one way or the other. If you are a researcher, you have protocols. In order to do things in a proper way, you have to follow protocols. If you're a witness, and I'm particularly referring to insiders, if you're a witness, military, you've got a clearance, you've been working in intelligence, whatever, if you're a witness, you have a lot of protocols that you have to deal with if you're going to come and engage this issue. And you better follow those protocols or you're going to end up in a bad place. I get that. And we have all of those things going on, and we have for most of the last 80 years, but recently it's really building up. But I'm an activist, so why does that matter? I got no protocols. No protocols at all. Or to refer to a phrase that was well known from a movie that some of you of a certain age may remember, I don't need no stinking badges. I can say what I want, when I want, how I want, where I want, and if somebody doesn't like it, that's just too bad. That's what activists do. They're always present in major movements. These are the ones that say what others cannot say. That's all right. And they say it over and over and over again. You know what I'm talking about. You've seen it. And that is part of how activism succeeds, or how major changes succeed, particularly in terms of getting governments to do something they don't want to do. It's not easy. You're going to get attacked. Sometimes they burn you at the stake. Yeah, you know, hopefully that doesn't happen anymore. But that is the dynamic. And so those that look at me as a journalist, they're going, hey, what the hell's he doing? Or a researcher, wait a minute, that's not right. So I'm trying to clear it up here. I know you'll spread the word. You'll take it, it'll spread across the country. Activists doing activist things. And one of the things that an activist has to do is perfectly represented by one of the most important phrases of the civil rights movement of the 20th century. Remember the 20th century? It was a hell of a century. The phrase is well known. It's called "keep hope alive." Now, why do you think that phrase is prominent and used still to this day? Why is that a big deal? It's simple. You want people to seek justice that they may never see in their own lifetime? You want them to take risks that in some cases, in some movements, could end up in their demise? You want them to reach in their own pocket? You want them to suffer this and that and everything else in order to achieve a goal? You're not going to get there by telling them frequently, it's never going to happen. Not going to happen. I'm sorry. Yeah, we're trying, but it's just never going to happen. Not in your lifetime, maybe in the 23rd century. No. You have to do everything you can within reason to keep people in the issue and committed. In other words, you have to keep hope alive. So if I'm going to be criticized, it's for that. I'm trying to keep hope alive so people will stay with it, because this is not easy. You are up against the most powerful nation the world has ever seen. It has good days and bad days. Okay, I get that. But still, unbelievable power. All right? Unbelievable wealth. Unbelievable secrecy. And they're using all of that to maintain this lie for another month, another year, maybe two, whatever it takes. Now, let me be clear. The decision to deny the very reality that we now take for granted, it's easy to see as you go up and down the street. Obviously, there's an interest in aliens. You can kind of tell that. By the way, I walked over from my B&B this morning, very early, kind of walked over. And as I'm walking, a couple of things came to mind. One, New Hampshire and Exeter is really in a great place, and I think I'm just going to stay. Okay, I'm just staying, all right? For the last 30 years, I have worked out of Washington, D.C. You may have heard of it. And it's not like this. It's different, right? And I'm on medications. And so I'm walking along, and there's great weather, and it's nice, and all of this. And from the Airbnb, just the B&B rather, to here, 10 people walked past me and said, "Good morning." And I said, "Good morning" back. That was kind of nice. Now, the reason I bring this up is, in the last 20 years that I've been in Washington, no one has said good morning. And so I'm going, okay, I get that. There's a difference, right? And so, but now I'm going to go back to D.C. My office is 2 blocks from the White House. You've heard of that. And I may say good morning to some people. And I'm going to get the crap beat out of me. That's what's going to happen. So, you know, maybe I'll stay, maybe I won't, but I got to visit more, all right? Invite me to your home. All right, so, wait, what's going here? I don't want to be there. I'm going to go back again. I'm accidentally pushing this button because I'm so tense. Okay, so let me at least get this point out of the way. 47, 49, 50, 51, 52, there was an opportunity to get this truth out, right? Could we have handled it? Could the American people who just went through World War II, where they were rationing rubber and all kinds of metals, right? And God knows what else. And also fighting, you know, they fought pretty hard overseas. Millions did. And the war's over. And so the American people are feeling good. They just gone through hell. So could they have handled the truth that, oh, there were some pilots in that thing that crashed, right? It crashed, right? It's not some super duper thing. It crashed. They're not human. Could they have handled it? Yes, they could have handled it. Absolutely could have handled it. No question. And to say they couldn't is to say the people that defeated the Axis powers and built this country are going to fall apart, go crazy, give up their religion, rip off their clothes, and run down the street because the government says, well, you know, it looks like we're not alone in the universe. And there's some non-humans there. They're not very sophisticated. The damn thing's crashed, right? And we got the bodies, and they stink just like us. We have one live. We're probably not going to treat them very well, but this is a whole new world. Absolutely, they could have handled it. But, and this is the way history is, history's awful. If you could just live your life without history, it would be so good. But you're doing well, right? You got a little village out there in the flats, right? Mid-Asia, Central Asia. Life is good. And all of a sudden, Genghis Khan and like 40,000, I forget what they call them, comes coming through, killing everybody. It ruins everything. Right, all your hopes and dreams are gone. He killed 42 million people, by the way. We're trying to match it, but not yet. History does that all the time. It's frustrating. But at least we follow history better now. We keep records. We know what's going on. We have a great record of what happened in the past, so we can not make the same mistake twice, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So what was the history here? Well, it was interesting. You see, we had dropped an atom bomb on 2 Japanese cities. We didn't have to. The president was encouraged not to, but he was talked into it in a sense by Curtis LeMay, who was prepared to bomb anything if it would explode. And the reason that ultimately he made that decision is because we knew we'd already established the second enemy, the next enemy, which is going to be the Soviet Union. Diplomacy didn't go well at that time, and we learned that they had the secrets. They were going to have the secrets, right? They always have the secrets, and so they're going to work on a bomb. And they were already trying to do something, and they were going to test one very soon, and things were going south very fast, and they decided, look, the very smart ones, and there are plenty of smart people in the DOD, projected out and said there's going to be a nuclear arms race, and we're going to be at loggerheads with the Soviet Union, which was the largest country on the planet at the time. After they gave up 14 republics in late 1990s, they're still the largest country in the world, and it's going to go badly. And so they said, we don't want this ET thing out now because we can't predict what's going to happen. We can't predict how that is going to affect what's going to happen. It's called unknown unknown. Thank you, Mr. Rumsfeld. All right? Unknown unknowns. And so the concept of unknown unknowns has been affecting your lives for a very long time. If the government is dealing with an unknown unknown, it's like, hey, whatever we got to do, right? We're going to do this, we're going to do that. You don't like it, but you don't know about the unknown unknowns. In other words, man, you're kind of being treated like children, like the way the parents deal with children. They don't want the kid to do something. Right? Let's say the kid's 5. 5 is a tough time, 5. And a kid is going, I don't see a problem, right? I should be able to do this. It's no problem. And the parent is going, yeah, but you don't know about what could come from doing that. And there were some unknowns that you don't know about. And I can't tell you those because you're not ready to hear that. And there may be even some unknown unknowns if you do that. And so you're just not going to do it. And the kid goes, okay, mommy, I won't do it. I understand that. Everybody that has a kid knows that you have to do that. I mean, you're not going to sit a kid down and explain quantum mechanics to them when they're 4 years old because they're thinking about, I don't know, getting some radioactive stuff from some kid in his class that happened to come across some radioactive stuff. And so what they had to do is treat us like children. It's called in loco parentis. And guess what? Adults don't like that. Educated people don't like that. And Americans who have a lot of freedoms under the Constitution really don't like that. And so all of this time, everybody's just grinding their teeth in a way. The ones that know, the ones that get a handle on it, which of course was small at the beginning, but it's grown and grown and grown. Now it's hundreds of, even billions of people know what the truth is in a sense. And so they're grinding their teeth through the 50s and the 60s and the 70s. And something else was going on. And kids also get onto this, parents. You lied to them. And at some point, they get smart enough to know you're lying. And that's not good. Because what it does is, they're going, my parents lied to me. They're not telling me the truth. I'm not going to believe anything they say. And so they're going to say, look, you're too young to drive a car. I'm 12. And you say I'm too young, but I think you're lying. And so the kid goes out, gets the keys, drives the car. Bad things happen. Same with this country, all right? To the extent that people learn they are lying through their teeth, to the extent they realized they were being treated in loco parentis, guess what started happening? Gradually, but growing and growing, not over weeks and months, over decades. Decades of grinding your teeth, knowing you're being treated like a child by your own government, who is lying to you every single day on the biggest issue in the world, and other stuff, you know, a little lie here, a little lie there, but this is big. You lose confidence in your government. You lose trust in your government. You get to a point where you won't believe anything they say. And once enough people get to that place, things start falling apart. They don't work, they go badly. And the more badly they go, the more lies that have to be generated to cover up how bad they go before the whole thing collapses. I'm being totally nonpartisan here, folks. In fact, I'm always nonpartisan. If you think you saw something partisan, you didn't listen correctly. Or no, you just missed it. It collapses. You know where we are now? 80 years into the truth embargo? The scaffolding is collapsing under the weight of untold years of lying to us on very important things. Small stuff, what the hell? You know, you have a mistress, you don't want to talk about it, it's your business. But we have extraterrestrials here, you say we're crazy, that's not your business. And so that is a kind of the general picture of the way it's been since 47. It's been a rough ride. I've been at 30 years now, right? I'm actually like 42. I look this old because it's been tough. That's actually not true. I look really young, and that's only because I didn't do anything the first half of my life. Finally, 7 years ago, coming on 8, we got an inflection point. We crossed over the Rubicon, or whatever the hell it is. There's always some river that the Army has to cross. And what took us there was the action of 10 people, specifically, that happened to work in the military intelligence complex. Whole thing, right? Little DOD, little CIA. I think there was, a couple of researchers and several, whatever. These 10 people came forward in 2017. Some of you know the names of them, but there are 2 or 3 you definitely know. And that was no accident. It wasn't, they needed something to do in their retirement. They came forward because they intended to use their actions at some risk to themselves, definitely financially, to see if they could spark the truth process and end the truth embargo, which they knew, of course, was a lie, every one of them. Their gravitas, their credentials were put up on a website, bio, photo. I mean, that's definitely putting yourself in there. And that caught the attention of a lot of people, including me. And only a couple of months later, people within that group delivered a major story to the New York Times, which, to its credit, vetted it, checked it out, and printed it. But not just printed it on paper. Paper, you may not know about it, but used to be a thing. They put it up on a website with the videos, And that's not such a big thing, but YouTube has been around for a while, so something going up with the video, fine. But the YouTube has 400 billion videos. It has more videos than grains of sand on the planet Earth right now. And so this went up in the New York Times website, very prestigious paper. Well, still pretty prestigious, having at moments. And so those videos of the 2 gun camera clips, I don't care if they're UAP or a misidentified something, they're damn anomalous, right? And they are gun camera clips because the Defense Department confirmed it. They did. Gun camera clips. We know how they got out. It's kind of a mistake. But they didn't, jump on it and start hauling people off in the middle of the night in order to stop that. It was the first gun camera clips ever released. Why is this important? Because, in case you didn't know it, there are tens of thousands of gun camera clips in the files and vaults of dozens of nations, the ones that have the air forces. No Air Force, no gun camera clips. They come up, they intercept, they shoot, they fly back, guy yanks the thing out of the back, sticks it in the vault. They've been doing that for 70 years. Nothing comes out. Nothing. Now, why would that be? It's simple. If gun camera clips, crisp, clear of actual craft, for instance, doing their thing, right, going away from a Navy or an Air Force jet or a Russian jet or a Chinese jet, whatever the hell, that stuff starts coming out, it's a little hard for the skeptibunkers, you know who they are, they're still around, they're up on X, check them out. Oh. It's a little hard for them to dismiss that. Well, that blows the truth embargo up, doesn't it? It's a Navy jet, it's 4K. I mean, you can see the, literally you can see the, the alien language on the side, right? It's not Sanskrit. So they cannot come out. And so that was a line. That was a line that was never going to be crossed. No gun, but we still have to take them. You're going to go up with these planes and you're going to intercept something over some airspace and you fly up there. You're not going to film it? You think our interceptors or any country's interceptors are not going to film it? Because you could go up there and make a mistake and shoot down some allies airliner, which does happen on occasion, but that's not good. This is not good for anybody. And so you need to have a record of what you saw, how you saw it, so that if something goes wrong, you can deal with it. And of course, you need to have a record of what you saw. Yeah, you just can't have the pilot come back and draw it. What did you see? Well, we intercepted 3 things, moving at great speed, and then it went straight up like that and everything else, and they were this round. Well, dude, draw that out for me. Draw that out. We'll put it in the file. No, they filmed it all. And so what a lot of people didn't understand is those 2 gun camera clips, it wasn't that they were definitive or not. Of course, the debunkers jumped all over it, right? Just going at it and showing this and that and everything else and just patting himself on the chair. I think I've discovered that's not really a UAP. I feel great. I'll tell everybody on X. No, it was a symbolic thing. They acknowledged their gun camera clips, which proved what I've been saying for 20 years, thank you, DOD, that there's thousands of them. Now, the question is, can we get those thousands? And we will. All right, now, what has happened since those 10 people came out? The most famous, Elizondo, Mellon, right? Who's a couple of others? And Fravor. Well, no, those are people that have come out, but the 10 that came out, the 3 most was, oh God, my memory's not what it used to be, but Elizondo and Mellon were absolutely important. And there were others. Jim Semivan was important, but he stayed in the background. But then later came out CIA operations head, right? He comes out with those 10 CIA operations, right? So, tell me, let's go back in time and see how many directors of operations at the CIA came out and said, I'm supporting getting the truth. No. And then he didn't plunge in like Mellon and Elizondo. You know what he did? Not too long after they came out? He confirmed publicly he's a contactee. We got a CIA operations head that says he's a contactee. That's new. That didn't happen in 1950, 60, 70, 80, right? So that's another way that they're pushing it. In any event, this was the breakthrough that has launched us into the final, I believe, years of the truth embargo. We are almost 8 years in, and it didn't need to take this long, all right? I'm about to make some nonpartisan statements here. Their plan was to come out, I'm almost certain, late in 2016, ahead of the election, which they felt confident would be won by former Secretary of State. And And they were well aware that that former Secretary of State and her husband and a number of her advisors were very much into the ET issue or the UAP issue previously, some still, but literally for 20 years, that was part of their reality, and one of my jobs was to point that out to anybody that would listen, and others. They were fully connected to the issue. And during the campaign, working from Washington and with the top publicists in Washington, D.C., I helped create dozens, and actually there were, I forget how many. God, I don't know how many there was, 400? Well, lots of articles connecting that campaign of the former Secretary of State to the issue. And they were getting so much attention from the journalists that they had to go on little talk shows and mention it and bring it up. They had to. But they didn't go on CNN or ABC or 60 Minutes. They went on little talk shows like Late Night and Ellen DeGeneres and so forth, because when you go on a talk show as a major person, you decide what's going to be asked or if it's not going to be asked. And so you say, I want to talk about this, they do it, you say something. That was happening throughout all of 2016. And I'm back at my place, I'm just driving and feeling great. You know, I'm planning that European speaking tour. It's all going to happen. We're going to get disclosure when that person wins. I believe their plan was to come forward after the election has been won by this individual, and all that would have happened then. Not 10 months later, but then. And so that all is happening. Everybody's excited. This lady wins the election, walks into the White House with 10,000 reporters behind her wanting to know more about that. What about that? And within no time, she had the power to vindicate her husband and the previous administration that her husband was involved in that couldn't do the job. They were pushed back on too much, and be the disclosure president, in which case that group takes off. Boom. Fantastic, great plan. I love this plan. It was a wonderful plan. But she didn't win. Somebody else won. And that just threw everything up in the air. And so they spent 9 months. Again, no one has ever contradicted me on this. I'm happy to hear, you know, an opposing view from somebody inside. They waited about 9-10 months, and they went ahead anyway and launched what we're seeing now. But the circumstances were totally different. And so it has dragged it out. What could have taken a year or less is now in its 8th year. And that's a problem, because when you come out like that on something of this magnitude, and you're in the public arena and the articles are being written and everything else, but you can't quite get the job done, it gets really tough, because people are saying, what's going on? You know, you're making this up, you're pulling our chain, whatever the hell, you're exposed. The financial risk you're taking is extended, right? You're not gonna get a lot of contracts, retirement-wise, or after retirement, when you come out like that on that issue. So it's been tough, very tough. I followed it pretty closely. Some of them had reasonably good times, some of them had a terrible time, but that's the price you pay for that kind of activism. You want to challenge the state at that level from a big background. If things start to stretch out, you're going to have to weather that storm. And they have. So they come out in 17, and thus begin the end game, I believe, of the truth embargo. From that point on, we have been in a steady progress towards a confirmation event from the head of state, which I labeled disclosure with a capital D. It's a proper noun. It means one thing: confirmation from the head of state, hopefully our president, and that's it. We're in the post-disclosure world. Everything expands at that moment. It's like the creation event. It's like what they call the Big Bang. Confirmation of the ET presence by the first head of state is like a big bang. It is a world-changing, worldview-changing big bang, and everything just explodes from it. I know you're going, I don't know that. You can't prove that. We've never experienced that. Certainly not the Big Bang. We're here because of it. So you have to take my word for it, right? I think I can make a great case. I'm just saying, it's going to be a big bang. You need to be prepared, all right, to deal with that. Hopefully benefit from it. So, over the next 7 years, what happened is witnesses came forward, they were taken up on the Hill, they were allowed to talk with members of Congress to inform them, because Congress only knows so much, they don't know much about this. They know more than you think, but so the meetings were held privately. This went on for a good while. The press is covering the issue more and more and more. In the last 7 years, I have put up 7,000 articles, triage, mainstream, professional press articles on this subject, 99% positive in the last 7 years, 7,000. The total articles I have on the website now, my website now is 16,000. If you need some reading, start in 1947, read forward, all right? So that media attention is driving the issue. In 2020, a major breakthrough, the first piece of legislation ever on this subject. Out of the Senate, Marco Rubio went into the COVID bill and set up, I forget what, I think they asked for a report. But it was the first piece of legislation ever, came out of the Senate. People are going, well, doesn't that happen all the time? No, it doesn't. There had been a couple of briefing hearings, but then we eventually got a real hearing, the first one since 1968, 55 years, got that. Meanwhile, the witnesses are coming forward, more briefings, more interviews are taking place, and we get another piece of legislation. This is a bigger piece of legislation that went into the 22 national NDAA. And then we got another piece of legislation, the ultimate piece of legislation, the UAP Disclosure Act. Thank you, Chuck Schumer and Mike Rounds. Disclosure Act. Disclosure Act, right? The reason that word is in there because a lot of people like me have been talking about disclosure incessantly for decades. I made it a term for a reason. Disclosure, revealing things, is, everybody understands that. Disclosure is prevalent everywhere. So getting this information out, doing that research, talking to this, that's all disclosure, small d, accumulating evidence, all good. And that will go on for the rest of time. Even after disclosure, you're gonna have that. I talked about disclosure with a capital D. And that's been tough for people. The damn capital D, I don't understand it. Earth means, if you're talking about the earth, you pick up, like a farmer, pick it up, run it through your hands, smell it, oh, this is good stuff, right? That's small e. You put a capital E on it, what does it mean? It means a planet. Disclosure is D with a small d is the revelation process that's been going on and will continue to go on. Capital D is an event. It is a proper noun. It is the formal confirmation by a head of state. Not the undersecretary, not somebody working in the cafeteria, even not an astronaut. Number of astronauts have said there's ETs here. Did that launch a new world? No, it didn't. It has to come from the head of state, who is invariably the commander of the armed forces, all right, with ultimate authority over everything, the total classification to see anything, anywhere in most countries, certainly our country, to do whatever the president wants with respect to our defense, national security. And thus, when that confirmation comes from that person, that essentially opens up the process for everybody else. And if you don't want to play ball, you're going to have to face up to the White House. But of course, they're going to play ball. The Disclosure Act, I believe he meant capital D, but it probably could be small d, meaning this is the act that allows the proper, formal, small d disclosure process to move ahead, get everything out in a responsible way, park it in the archives, have a review board, eminent domain, he threw that in, interesting. That was we've been shooting for since 47. That act was the act we had to have. It is the ultimate bill. You almost need nothing else. So the president confirms the Disclosure Act is in place, the stuff starts coming forward, you guys are on the internet 24/7, everything comes out, you're clapping, it's fantastic, and in time, it will all come out. But the issue of an ET presence will be there forever. And yes, it'll be, if our president confirms it, it will be substantiated by other heads of state very quickly. They're not going to sit back and go, well, we know it's true, but we don't want to get on that bandwagon. We'll just kind of lay back, And their citizens are going to be going, Mr. Macron, are you trying to say that France doesn't know jack about this? Right? You've been oblivious all this time. They've just launched the new world, and we're going to sit back on our ass? I don't think so. And they will come forward with relish and in a positive way. And so our president confirms, they back him up, done deal. And we're in the post-disclosure world. Every aspect of the process leading up to that, and pretty much everything after it, is as nonpartisan as anything you can imagine. One of the most important things about what you've been seeing the last 7 years, as how nonpartisan it is, right? And that's remarkable because everything else is partisan, okay? What you're having for lunch, I'm not going to get into specifics because I don't want to do that. Just to say everything is partisan, folks. You know what I'm talking about? Those of you who had a large family dinner and decided to just speak up, this is nonpartisan. They've admitted it. The people involved have relished in it. I've talked to them. Yeah, I can talk about this. This is important. Even though over here they're saying things that make your hair on fire, right? But over here on the ET issue, nonpartisan, and they're still there. And it's because it is nonpartisan. It transcends politics. But it's also a safe space for politicians embroiled in this rather difficult, stressful time we're in to go somewhere where they can just deal with some and try to advance it without having to get too much hate mail. And so it's like a safe space for them, and they're embracing it. That's very important, something to keep in mind. Let's see what I got here. So essentially what's been going was the Capitol is taking over, has taken over. We've got legislation, we've had 4 hearings, 4 other minor hearings, and we have another hearing coming up soon. Let's see if I got that here. I'll get back to that. Where is it? Okay. From Burleson's office, yesterday, late evening, he has confirmed that there will be, that he is co-sponsoring the UAP Disclosure Act in the House. First time this has happened. So just before the recess in August, right before during the recess in August, Schumer and Rounds put the same act, UAP Disclosure, same one that they put in 3 years ago, word for word, pretty much, into the Senate to be considered when they come back in September. So in the first week of September, the Senate's going to pass that UAP Disclosure Act. But as you know, the first time they put it in, it cut in half in reconciliation. A bold move by those opposed to you all getting the truth. It kind of worked, cut it in half, but it still got in. Then the second year, they brought it back completely the same, put it in as an amendment. But things have been happening, things have always been happening, and eventually it was blocked by a chairman of a committee. They have this ability regarding amendments, and so they blocked it, and so they just had to withdraw it because they knew it couldn't get through. Another year goes by, they're resubmitting it again, right? It will be passed by the Senate, but this time they sought co-sponsors for the bill in the House, and Burleson signed on. We're hoping some more will co-sponsor it. Why is this important? By the way, does anybody have the time? 12:53? Okay. Because when a bill is submitted to the House, and the House Majority Leader doesn't like it, the Majority Leader says, not going to vote on that. Not going to happen. That's it. Okay? So when you have a co-sponsor or co-sponsors, particularly if they're the same party as the Majority Leader is more likely to go, okay, let's take a vote. If that happens, folks, very interesting. Why? Because if that goes to a vote in the House, every member of the House of Representatives will have to publicly vote yay or nay, first time ever, on a bill that clearly acknowledges there is an extraterrestrial presence. The only thing it doesn't do is say in the bill there's an extraterrestrial presence, but it refers to non-human tech, non-human bodies, or whatever. And they may not be extraterrestrial, they could be multidimensional, but trust me, folks, you don't want them to be multidimensional. For those of you that go, I just hate that star-to-star approach, right? I'd rather have them, coming from another dimension. No, you don't. Those that go there, I get it, they're trying to, it's like, but here's the fallacy. They're saying, look, it can't be star to star because I didn't study physics, but I know a lot about relativity, and you just can't get there because of time dilation and blah, 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 blah. And so it can't be that, but I know they're here, so they got to come from somewhere else. Let's go with dimensions. Now, here's the problem. We know a hell of a lot less of how anything could come from another dimension, or even if there is another dimension, than we know about the potential for star-to-star travel, which is basically just finding another way to work with time and space. Wormhole is a symbol for that. Whatever. Worm. Why do they use wormhole? I don't like that. And so, but then it gets worse than that, okay? And I don't get it. The truth embargo creates this kind of confusion. It creates this kind of dissonance, and I respect that. In other words, anybody that has a problem with this issue, skeptics, debunkers, or just people that are weird, whatever, or doing stuff I don't like with the issue, I do not have a beef with them. You'll never see me fight somebody or criticize somebody on the internet, certainly in the field, right? I just don't do it. I don't fight. Oh boy, is that helpful in terms of your mental health. Because as far as I'm concerned, there's only one culprit here. It isn't some debunker that's making some stupid remark, or somebody in the field attacking somebody else in the field, or somebody going off on a tangent with some wild-ass theory that may or may not be true. They're not the culprit. There's only one culprit here, the United States government. If they had not done what they have done, we wouldn't be having these problems. They created this entire intellectual ghetto, and if people are not behaving well in the ghetto, that's on the government that created the ghetto, not the people that have been encased in there. And so, multi-dimensions. Here's how that works. They're not just from another star, and they come in, got a base, cruise around, maybe take somebody, get a little cow blood, whatever they got to do, okay? No. Kind of defined. We even know where some of the bases are, I think. It's like, okay, we know where they are. Kind of keeping tabs on that. No, multi-dimensions. So you're at Thanksgiving dinner with the whole family. It's going great. And then an arm from another dimension just reaches into the table and gets all the dark meat and then takes it out. Think about that. Okay, do you want that to be the reality? Okay, talk about, an ET walks through a wall in your bedroom. It hasn't happened to me, but I know it happens. I'm hoping I would handle it well. That's startling. Something emerging out of another dimension into you, and you can do it anytime they want. This is not good. So all I'm saying is, unless you really have got the proof for multidimensionality, will you chill on that? And then there's this other approach they're getting into, which is, again, the product of the truth embargo, which is you can go up all the blind canyons you want, you can take diversions, you could go around the moon and come back as long as you're not putting pressure on the government. Leave us alone. We got a program here. And so run around. Is that a way to treat an adult? Go off on a goose chase. Do it for 10, 12 years. We don't give a shit. All right? Yeah, you could do something else with your life, but why would you? That's what they're doing. Time travel. They're not coming from another star. They're us from the future. And the basis for that is I've seen some time travel movies. Right? They're very good. Time travel makes great movies. And so I've seen it done on the big screen. So it probably is possible in real life. Going back in the past. Absolutely. No, it's not. And so, really? If it's possible to go back in time, then anybody can go back in time. Multiple civilizations, whatever the hell, turning up, us coming, makes no sense, but at least it's not star to star. Now, I'm not picking on those theories per se. Again, the culprit is the United States government. It could resolve this very easily. Just announce the truth embargo, end the truth embargo, begin the process, and the whole world will start looking at everything and start sorting it out in a scientific way, scientific process, where you establish a fundamental, experimentally provable truth, and then you move on to something else, as opposed to just going around and around, dealing with who the hell knows what, which is what we've had to do on this issue. So I'm going to go with star to star. Does it matter? Ultimately, it doesn't matter where they're from. What matters is they didn't grow up in Newark. They got nothing but human DNA, okay? And they love pizza, whatever. Okay, so the Congress is now advanced to the point where we're about to have the third major hearing. It will be on September 9. It will be in the House. The room has not been announced yet. Hopefully within about 3 or 4 days, we'll have that. The time has not been announced, but the hearing is definitely going to happen. It will be chaired by the man leading this issue now, which is Eric Burleson. I've met him, had dinner with him. He's a great guy, right? I don't care what your politics is. If you don't like Eric, you got a problem. Easygoing, likable. Not putting out screeds, has strong views, he'll express it, doesn't go after people, tries to service his people. He's beloved in his district, won with 73% of the vote. And he has been given the portfolio on the Secrets Task Force by Luna because she has got her hands full with some document issues. The JFK documents, some progress there, RFK, MLK in the works, and then she also has the Epstein portfolio. It's a big portfolio, okay? It's a big problem, okay? So she assigned it to Eric, and so Eric is going to lead that hearing. 3 witnesses have been picked. We think Mike Herrera is one of them. That's interesting. Not sure about the other 2, but they said they're 2 Air Force, 1 Navy. The witness process has been difficult for him because the delays and the other things in the world that are sort of creating a little distraction and chaos is making a lot of people out there a little skittish. The witnesses are much more skittish recently than they were going back a ways, and so they can't quite get them to come in. And they're not going to subpoena them. That's not the way. And so they're having difficulty getting the witnesses they want. Now, I am working very hard to get a particular set of witnesses in, and that is the witnesses to the shutting down of our nuclear weapons. They're ready to testify tomorrow. They're ready to go into a SCIF. Bob Salas is their leader, and I have educated and informed 35 members or houses of Congress, 35 offices about their availability. They all have the witness statements and so forth, and they are in play. And the day those witnesses turn up, boy, we are really close to wrapping this up, because their testimony is not just another event. It is the most important event that has happened regarding this issue. And so, given that the Disclosure Act is well in play in September, that Burleson is co-sponsoring, we're going to have a strong hearing on September the 9th. I will be in the room. I'll try to get in the center so I can get in the damn camera shot, you know. By the way, on the Grush hearing, I got in. You had to get there 6:30 in the morning, stand in a line, right? Well, whatever. I got in. And I got in the photo. Not just any, there were a lot of photos. I got in the Time magazine photo, the 100 Time magazines. It's on all of my social media. There I am, looking really gaunt and a little weird, okay? But I'm there. Then the second hearing, 60-some people cut in line. And I got in there at 4:30 in the morning. It was freezing. It was below freezing. People were wrapped in blankets laying on the sidewalk. I got in, and I'm like 40. Right? I'm going to be right there. 60 people somehow cut in front. I wasn't paying attention. That's not going to happen this time. So that's going to be the 9th. That is another major thing that's going on. And so in that sense, this building is doing its job. We are places we've never been. And if it only depended on that building, we'd be planning our post-disclosure celebration parties. I'm going to have a big one, right? Have to be a Zoom, because I don't really have a place. But the point is that it can't end there. There's only one place this ends. And it's not there. See, I can't keep pressing this because I'm talking and pressing. I got to work on my slide technique. This is ridiculous. Here we go. Here we go. Boom. 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 Where did that slide go? God damn it. Hang on, I'll find it. Here we go. I think I'm double pressing. There it is. That's a damn good photo, by the way. If it had a really good screen, you'd be going, ooh. This is where it ends. It's always had to end here. Could have ended in Beijing, could have ended in the Kremlin, but we'd prefer it ended here. Okay, trust me, you want it to end here, right? Because that is where the president lives, and the president is the only one that can do capital D disclosure. And when the president says we're not alone, however the wording, that's it. It might use the phrase technologically advanced non-humans, which is a whole lot of syllables, right? But it's safe, okay? I don't think he's going to say time travelers. He might say extraterrestrials. Hopefully he won't say aliens. Alien's not a good term. There's good language and bad language. I've played a role in trying to get the language right in this issue, very important. If you're going to reach the masses and be able to talk to politicians and journalists, you need the right language. The language of the truth embargo, UFO, UFO cover-up, and all that kind of stuff was not helping. And we fixed that. That's good. It ends here. I have been talking, I've got like 20-some podcasts already booked for the rest of this year, and I haven't sent out my list yet. I got 290 podcasters that I'm going to hit pretty soon. I may do 120 podcasts within the next 4 months. Why? Because I have a message to convey, which you're going to get right now. This is nonpartisan, period. All right? The evidence seems to be mounting that a serious discussion and actions are being taken to set up the current president of the United States to end the truth embargo. To simply come out and say it. Doesn't have the words. Some press, no press, in the Oval Office, on Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan, this is a president who could do it on Joe Rogan, it would work. The other presidents wouldn't work. Right? No way. Well, I wasn't a Joe Rogan back then, but now there is. And so if you go on Joe Rogan, it's the same as saying it from the White House, which says we're in a different time, different place. And I wish I could get on his show. It's not happening. So why do I think that? Here is the basic evidence. One, we've known for some time that he had been briefed. A little here, little there. Grush said he gave him a brief. Now, what a briefing means, sit down, talk a little bit. We're not talking about some massive one-week presentation by the entire Defense Department. We're talking a little brief. He's been getting them all the way back to the first administration. Okay, that's evidence one. Evidence two, we know his son is into the issue. How deep into the issue is he? He has a podcast called Triggered. It's good. It's a good podcast. He's a good podcaster. He knows what he's doing. Okay, great. So he has a podcast. Who cares? 5 days before his inauguration, of his father, rather. 5 days before the inauguration of his father, he brings on Louis Elizondo and Ross Coulthard. Have you heard of them? To talk about this subject for 2 hours. You think that's an accident? He just kind of booked it like 2 years in advance. That just happened to fall 5 days before the inauguration. Who knew? No, not an accident. And I know why I think they did it. And I'll get to that in a second. And so I watched that, and I'm going, that's interesting. I want to see what's going to happen next. Months went by. Not really. A lot else was happening in those months, I can tell you, so whatever. And I watch the news constantly, which is why I am on meds. I have to watch the news. I don't recommend it, folks. All the news, good, the bad, and the ugly. And then, 30 days ago, something happened. Something wonderful. I'm referring to the comment in the movie Contact, 2010, I think it was, whatever it was. 2010 Contact, whatever. Bowman, from the first film, says to... 2001, that's right. He says, but the second was 2010. Bowman turns up and he says to, what's his name? He says, something's going to happen. And the guy says, well, what's going to happen? And Bowman says, something wonderful. Okay, I love saying that. Isn't that cool? Okay. So, approximately 25 days ago, out of nowhere, the Vice President of the United States, very important job, big job, high level, goes on a podcast. By the way, everything that's going to happen to you in your life and in this country going forward is going to start with podcasts. That's just the way it is. If you're waiting for laws to be passed or diplomacy to take place, summits, no, it's all going to come from podcasts, right? If we end the nuclear arms race, it will be because of a series of podcasts that took us there. That's the world we're in. It's no problem. I don't have a podcast, so you see what that means to me. I'm in a problem. I got a problem here. I got to work on having a podcast so I can interview other podcasters. Vice President Vance brings up the issue, allows it to come up. He's on a basic podcast, nothing special. It's not a Rogan. It's a couple of people, no big deal. And when you're the vice president, you decide what's going to come up and what's not. And if you don't want to talk about UAPs, they're not going to bring it up. They brought it up. And so he's chatting about it, and then he drops this. See, I don't miss anything. I am obsessed with UFOs. Go find it. Listen to it. Has any other vice president said that? No. Has any president said that? No. Any secretary of defense? Any undersecretary to the undersecretary? Nobody has said that while in the job, maybe even out of the job. I'm obsessed with UFOs. What? What? What's going on here? Okay, put a pin in that. 5 days later, another very high official in the government, Tulsi Gabbard, Director of National Security. It's a pretty big job. She goes on another podcast, not a big one, just a couple ladies, very nice, safe. The subject comes up, she's talking about it. Not dismissing it, she's talking about it. And she's the head of national security. She's not the agricultural secretary. And I'm going, that's interesting, I put a pin in that. And then 5 days later, oh yeah. Man, I'll tell you, this was good. How much time? 5? Good. I could do 2.5 hours, folks, trust me. We could go into the lunch period, those of you who are fasting, doing that, whatever the hell fasting thing. We could do that. Anna Paulina Luna, the chairman of the Secrecy Task Force, the Federal Secrets Task Force, is that quite a name? Never had one of those before. Who has gotten a lot of the JFK documents out. And she's, really working hard, very intense woman, strong views, and is now dealing with the Epstein stuff, which is going to test her merit to the absolute limit. I'm not going to go there, but does me tell you, it's an atomic bomb. That's all I'm going to say. Now, she goes on a podcast, another safe one, and just can't stop talking about it. Oh, by the way, what podcast is it? It's Joe Rogan. You see what I'm saying? All paths lead through Joe Rogan. Just understand that. Hope to God I get on one day, but whatever the point is that she goes on Rogan 2 hours, and she's getting into the ETF, she's rocking, she's rolling. She's talking about, she knows this, she saw this, she's been told this and everything else, and confirms that she's told. Again, when she says she's told, she's talking to people with clearance situations, in SCIFs. She has the access, pretty much. And she's, oh yeah, non-human. Got non-human stuff, proving non-human tech, non-human bodies. And then she says, based upon what I'm hearing from these insiders, I'm thinking multidimensional, interdimensional. And I'm going, okay, Representative Paulina, I like what you're saying. Not quite there yet, right? But it's safe, right? If she'd said, I'm pretty sure they're star to star. Oh my God, people go, no, multidimensional, kind of little, whatever. But this is huge. 20 million, 30 million people ultimately will see that interview with the head of the Secrecy Task Force, who said she's going to get the stuff out, saying, well, I've already talked to a lot of people. You haven't heard from them yet, but they pretty much told me what's going on. And I'm digesting that. And I'm trying to think, what can explain this? And if this was happening regularly, no big deal. But it never has happened, period. I went through the whole Clinton thing. You wouldn't believe how unbelievably hard it was to try to get the Clinton to go beyond just an inside kind of thing. It was impossible. Now, who hasn't in the administration come forward and said, yeah, ETs or whatever? This is my explanation. If you think it's wrong, don't tell me. No, it's all right. Come up. I'll be at a table right there. I'll be at a table right there. Come in and tell me why you think it's wrong. If I am the administration and I know the president has been briefed, has a basic understanding, almost certainly has been told, they're real, they're here, whatever there is. That's not a lot, but it's on the table, right? And I'm thinking that given the difficult time we're in, and the potentially very difficult time that the administration may be going into. Nothing unusual about that. Probably got 2 minutes. I'm thinking about options. And so one of the things I've been doing in this podcast is I'm sending out a basic message. It's a legitimate message. That if the President of the United States steps out in whatever reasonable form and confirms the extraterrestrial presence, that is capital D disclosure, and he has just committed one of the most important acts in all of history. He has triggered the biggest paradigm shift in all of history. He has changed the world. Now, if another head of state does it first, and he has to do it second, it gets Jack. But if he does it first, it is a legacy unmatched. It is a lock on a Nobel Prize. I'm just telling you right now. Nobel Prize, guaranteed. That is what is in his hand. All he has to do is walk out and do it. 13 other presidents of both parties could have done it. They didn't. They all knew. You think Eisenhower didn't know? Truman? They all knew. They all knew it was real. That didn't mean how much they knew. And they could not come forward. Clinton could not come forward. He would be the one that does come forward. And whatever happens through the rest of his term, he will take that into history. A legacy unsurpassed. That is, boy, a very tempting thing. And so I'm just putting this out in podcast after podcast, in case somebody listens to one of those podcasts over at the White House and goes, you know, it's not a bad idea. So that's the thing I'm making now. Let me know what you think later, but I got a feeling something could happen very soon. Thank you. Thank you.